Well, thanks to everyone who came. I'm sorry that we have run out of time. There's more questions that we couldn't get to. I would love to talk to all of you guys longer. Next time, maybe we can do some podcasts with each of you and people can tune into that. So, Seton, thank you very much for coming and showing us your gadgets. Mike, thanks for joining us and giving us your expertise on the limits of human performance.
Thank you.
Bobby, as always, it's a pleasure to hear your comments about running from athletes all over the world and all the different skill levels that you've worked with.
Thanks for having me.
And Terry,
Suzanne?
it's a pleasure.
Yeah, I loved doing this. Let's do it again.
That's what I was going to say.
All right, maybe on Thursday. And folks, just to remind you guys, on the video page, there's some buttons that will take you right to Total Immersion Academy, to the runtransformation.com. So it's totalimmersionacademy.com, runtransformation.com. Trisports.com has got the nifty fun gadgets. And I think that's it for now. I think we've got a trailer to play for you if the video is continuing to work well. So thanks for coming, everyone, and join us again soon.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
I am incredibly lucky to have found this thing that I just love to do and that I seem to have a knack for, and that doesn't feel like work. I'm a bigger believer that talent is something that you learn rather than something you're born with. And that's been supported by quite a bit of pretty serious research. Absolutely, it's true that certain people are born with certain advantages. Michael Phelps was unquestionably born with certain physical advantages over other people. But that much said, you can't really do anything about that, so why would you dwell on that? You know, if you don't have Michael Phelps's talent, if you think about that, you're only going to think of yourself as limited. And I think it's far better to be thinking of your potential for developing what you have as being unlimited. And the research shows, and my experience also has demonstrated, that there's a certain set of behaviors that are characteristic among people who achieve a high degree of excellence, regardless of whether they were born with an innate knack for a thing, and that they are typically seen to do the same behaviors and to cultivate the same mindsets. And when you practice these behaviors and these mindsets, you can be Kaizen in anything you choose. And essential to any pursuit of excellence is that you be process-oriented and not outcome-oriented. You live in the present moment, and you try to make the present moment as good as it can be, and you let the future take care of itself. So no, I don't really think about what might happen with my swimming or what outcome I might have in a week or even an hour. I'm focused on this minute. How good can I make this minute? And at the end of the hour, 60 great minutes adds up to something.
There's one other figure that has been really prominent in my triathlon journey as far as a mentor and a role model, and that would be Terry Laughlin. I would love to talk about how Terry got involved in my life and my education as a triathlon coach, but Terry, who's the founder of Total Immersion, is really very skilled at what he does, which is teaching swimming, and he's a very skilled swimmer himself. And his way of conveying what he knows about swimming and understands about it, and the way that he's developed a system where other people can learn how to swim without struggling or fighting against the water, has been, not only a very specific technical side of my triathlon coaching, but his whole approach to seeing swimming and seeing swimming as an art, and how do you take this art and convert it into grace and speed? How do you take something that's so artful and apply it to a practical situation, which is a triathlon? It's really just helped me change a lot of how I think about teaching and how I think about approaching specific athlete problems.
I actually don't push myself physically. I'm always pushing myself mentally and sort of out at the edge, the very periphery of my awareness. I'm dimly aware in the midst of doing a difficult task that what I call sensation, other people may refer to it as pain, I just call it sensation, sometimes intense, right? I can feel that at the edges of my focus. In the center of my focus is one thing, which is I swim quite often with a particular targeted stroke count I'm trying to hold and a certain tempo, which I'm hearing a beep that's giving me the tempo for a certain duration, a certain distance. And my whole world is about the beep, the sensation of the stroke I'm trying to execute, all right? And knowing a small change in sensation means I'm going to add a stroke and add a second, if that's what my tempo frequency is, when I get to the next wall, and avoiding that missed moment, that nanosecond in the stroke where something small goes wrong. And I just am very aware of the sensation of a high efficiency stroke. I'm trying to keep executing those strokes, every stroke in that beep, in that beep, in that beep. And it requires, I'm usually setting myself a task, that combination of stroke count and tempo, I'm usually setting a task that's really exacting. If my attention wavers for a moment, I have that nanosecond of error. And I just try to eliminate those nanoseconds of error. So it's an incredibly intense experience to be doing that for an hour, but at the same time, it's unbelievably energizing. I will have worked hard physically at times, and I come out with more energy than I went in, physical, mental, and spiritual. I'm an intensely competitive person when it comes to open water swimming. I like to race. I like to win my age group. I like to beat people who are younger than me, and so on. I like to be recognized as a very good open water swimmer. I know that in my practice, I've designed my practice to include tasks that improve the skills that win races. I know what the skills that win races are, and I really focus my practice on honing the skills that win races. I don't spend any time doing something that doesn't in some way prepare me to race better. And yet when it really comes down to it, while I'm doing that practice, I am not giving a thought to the next race, how I might do, any of that stuff. All I'm thinking about is the task of the moment.
I start a workout at the pool that I swim at in New York. I lose sense of time completely. I have no idea how much time is going by. The experience and the experience changes from you. No, it's interesting because in Terry's method you work on focal points, very specific kinds of things for lengths of time. But when you put them together, you don't think about how your arm is going in and how your leg is moving and how your head is. It's just the whole gestalt changes. It's an entire, the whole feeling of moving is what makes it such a unique experience to me.
A lot of what people do for exercise, I sometimes call it the Western industrial exercise complex, which is you think of people in gyms on these ranks of aerobic machines, and they're watching TV and they're reading magazines and they're paying no attention to what they're doing. They just want to burn calories and burn fat and burn all sorts of things while not really thinking about what they're doing, because it's not that much fun, it's a little drudgery, it's a bit of an obligation, it's a checkoff, and so on. And what we're really trying to get people to do is make this switch, not just to mindfulness, but to having every moment be pleasurable, not wait for the delayed gratification. In 3 months' time, I'm going to weigh 10 pounds less, all right? But right this hour, right this minute, I'm going to have an amazingly great time in swimming by understanding it better, by connecting with it mentally, emotionally, spiritually, by putting my whole self into it. And that's what those drills are really about. They're about teaching you to reframe the whole way you approach swimming. I mean, your concept of it and your sense of that it's a practice, not a workout, and so on. So it is a shift from a Western industrialized to a more Eastern and much more personal way of doing swimming. And it takes it away from being exercise. I don't even think anymore of swimming as exercise. I think of it as a movement art where exercise happens. And I'm happy it does, but I don't do it as exercise.
I must tell you, I swim much better than I walk these days.
I want to emphatically add that adopting this idea instead of chasing speed that may come later and feeling that I must work, I must expend energy to get it, all right, what we're trying to get people to do is shift swimming from the work area, all right, and when you exercise, you have in your mind that it's work. You don't think of exercise as play. It's the serious thing that you must do not to be fat. And then you get into a sport like triathlon or open water swimming, and to the work you add obligation. And what's fun about that? So we're trying to get people to have a more playful attitude about it and seek to feel freedom, to exercise creativity, to feel this is a very personal thing, and to feel that way every moment. And it does not in any way mean you're complacent about having good results. I am not in the least bit complacent. I've won 6 national championships and broken national records on 3 occasions. I am no way complacent, all right? I practice in the way I just described, but I still expect to have high-level performance outcomes as a result of feeling this very personal connection that I always love what I do. I'm not pushing myself because I'm scheduled to go to the pool today.
In order to be a great coach, you've got to, I think people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And with Terry, it's, you really see it. And I think you see it most because, in my opinion, Terry is the best coach in North America ever. But he's choosing to give up some of the limelight that might come with coaching the elite athletes and taking it to the masses. And I was fortunate to be a part of that, where he's not saying, I have to work at the most prestigious swimming university in the United States. Let me just work at West Point, which isn't, you know, the hotbed for the best swimmers in the world, and let me work with the most underperforming group. And you see it right from his initial interaction with people that he's not saying, here's my resume and I need to work with the best athletes. He's saying, here's my knowledge base and I want to share it with everyone, regardless, and I get as much enjoyment seeing a person learn to swim or complete 25 yards as I do someone breaking a record in Division I at West Point, or someone completing their first triathlon. And it's a genuine appreciation for all of it that you just see, and it just makes him so much more effective than a lot of people.
I had 2 mentors when I started in coaching. Actually, they weren't mentors so much as people I wanted to emulate. My college coach, Dick Krempecki, who, when I asked him as a senior if we could do morning workouts, he came in early, and at first it was me and 6 or 7 other people, and a few weeks later it was just me. And Dick would come in, and he would sit on the bench and watch me swim for an hour and a half, and I still get emotional thinking about Dick being willing to do that for me, even though I wasn't a very good swimmer, you know. So I wanted to be like Dick, and I also had another coach named Bill Irwin, who coached me in club swimming, not in college. And Bill and Dick were 2 completely different personalities. Dick would give essentially unchanging workouts, pretty much the same thing every day, but that very dependability allowed you to compare your performances from 1 month and 1 week to the next month and the next week. Bill was completely the opposite, which is that you could never tell what you were going to get from Bill. He was pretty imaginative, he was unpredictable, he loved to teach. Dick Krempecki was a training coach. In 4 years he might have said a few sentences to me about technique, whereas Bill Irwin really loved to teach, and he made it fun to be there. He really, you know, you really sensed he enjoyed being there with you, and it made you enjoy being there with him. So I kind of distilled the best from both coaches in my own coaching. From Krempecki, to convey that you really care, to convey that your commitment to the athlete is unconditional. And from Irwin, it was loving to teach.